Hi everyone, Kathy Beltran with Sacred Dancer Trance. I am very excited to finally have Stephen Hermann, international medium, teacher, trance healer, and author with us here today. I know I've been gone for a while, but I'm back and I'm back with somebody big. So thank you, Stephen. Everyone, Stephen Hermann here.
Well, I'm really happy to be here. I'm really excited. So if you think that you're excited, I'm even more excited because it's such an awesome thing you're doing educationally for people.
Well, you know what, I don't interview anybody but trance, physical, all that. That's the only thing. So it's not like I've got a huge group of people I can go to.
So that means I can like levitate to the ceiling.
Oh my goodness. So I do want to bring up, I actually have Stephen's book here, and it is Mediumship Mastery, The Mechanics of Receiving Spirit Communication. So a lot of my friends, I know you have this already, but if you don't, it's available through Amazon. Is it also available through your website, Stephen?
It's just available for Amazon. I mean, when I go on tour, because I teach worldwide, I usually try to bring copies with me, that type of thing. I can autograph them, but
okay, awesome.
Amazon you can get anywhere.
Okay. And it just dawned on me, I'm not sure if I said international medium. Okay. So I want to make sure that's out there because we'll talk a lot about Stephen's events and he travels all over the place. So previous guests had recommended Stephen for me. And that's one of the interviews I did with Roy Allen. So grateful to Roy. Thank you, Roy. Anyway, so we'll definitely talk about his book later and events that's happening with him. But I'm here to talk about trance mediumship, trance healing, everything about trance, and really to help others learn more about and connect you with teachers. Everybody, it's great to have a bunch of different teachers because people connect with different ones. So again, let's go ahead and start this out. Stephen, we always start out with how you got into mediumship. How did it start in the very beginning for you?
Oh gosh, well, I guess with mediumship is, I've always been really mediumistic since I was little. So it's one of these types of things that I feel I was supposed to get into it. And so I did. And when you get into mediumship, you can't really get away from it. It's very addictive in a good sense. So unlike some substances which cause a lot of problems for people, mediumship is an addiction which is very healthy.
It is. I absolutely agree with you on that. So did you have that support growing up? You always had supportive people around you?
Well, I'm pretty independent and individualistic, so I've never really, I always done my own thing.
Okay, good.
And my first mediumistic experience is when I was 2, and I was always open. I actually remember my first encounter with the spiritualist movement was when I was about 5, and I was watching this documentary on TV. It's all about all different types of churches. And what stood out the most, when they just said, oh, we're going to go to this spiritualist church in London where spiritualists claim they can talk to the dead. Next thing, they had like this, I was a bit disappointed because there's this old guy standing up in front of all these people in the church talking to them. Of course, he was doing mediumship. So, but I was always drawn to it, and I'm really glad that I got into it because it's really a way of being able to work as an instrument to help other people, the gifts of the spirit. And that's really what it's all about. It's about love. It's about helping people to connect with themselves as eternal souls and also with the relationship with God.
Wow, that's pretty amazing to be so open like that, being 5 and seeing that. I've never talked to anybody that told me that they're like the television and that.
Oh yeah, well, the other thing that stood out in that one show was that before that they had some church in San Francisco that was having a gay marriage. And I'm asking, well, how can these guys do this? I was only 5.
Yeah.
But anyway, but that stood out. And then the mediumship part, is this whole, all these different, the Mormons do this, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the different churches, different denominations of Christianity, that kind of thing.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So good. So what got you into the trance part? What led you there?
Well, the thing with mediumship, mediumship's in all cultures, in all places all over the world, people have always worked. There have always been intermediaries between the physical world and the spirit dimension. So we see in these cultures, there's people who function as healers or they function as mediums for information, for higher philosophy or guidance, this type of thing. So what do they have to do? They allow themselves to be utilized that way by going into a deeper, altered state of consciousness. So really, when we talk about trance, all mediumship involves varying degrees of altered states of consciousness, doesn't it? So, I mean, I could be open right now, my eyes completely wide open, and I could be bringing through some type of, let's say, clairvoyant message for you. But if you measured my brain waves, you know, really what's taking place is I'm in an altered state, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
So now there's a difference between trance and what we call entrancement or control. And the other thing with mediumship is all types of mediumship involve a degree of control or influence from the world of spirit. And there's, at the same time, there's varying degrees of altered states. But of course, you could have someone who's in an altered state of consciousness. And I work with like hypnosis, for example. You can go some very, 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 very deep. And a lot of the early people who really got involved with spiritualism began investigating it when the movement started in 1848 in upstate New York. What were they interested in? They were interested in mesmerism on both sides of the Atlantic, you know, here in the States and Canada, and also in England and parts of all over Europe. People were into that. So, of course, with what Mesmer is doing, is putting people in these very, very, very deep states. And when you're in that deep state, the analytical mind gets out of the way, and automatically you can start to open up with your psychic abilities. And of course, when you're in that state, the analytical is out of the way. So the spirit personalities are going to be able to work with you and influence you. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, no, you mentioned measuring the brain waves. Have you ever had that done? Because I notice a lot of times.
I haven't actually had that done. I know there's some, actually, I know there's this one medium in England who's doing stuff like that right now, looking people up. A lot of the scientific experimentation with mediums has involved, you know, the heart rate, all of these types of things. And now what's really taking place in the spirit world, whereas it is literally all around us, so it's a much quicker, faster rate of vibration. They have to lower theirs to connect with us. And of course, when they connect with us, what are they doing? They connect with our central nervous system. And in doing that, they can control physiologically all the different functions of the body, as well as they work with our mind and, you know, influence our mind and put things into our mind. So the more they can kind of get the medium out of the way, the more the fullness of being able to express themselves through the medium. And that's true with healing, as well as with, you know, bringing through communications, which could be really evidential in the sense of, you know, describing information about the communicator so the person can recognize it, or just bringing through some type of guidance that helps people as well. Because there's all these different types of mediumship, and they all serve really different functions and different purposes to help people. Not like one's better than the other.
No. I think one of the reasons why I started doing the interviews a couple years ago was, you know, I think I attended a couple of events, and what I noticed, and people that I started talking with, was that, you know, some people that I knew would start taking a class, and they've never did anything with trance or anything like that. And I started noticing people offering, you know, going into business with that. And it just seemed like it was such a very short time from taking a class to now being considered a trance healer or a trance medium.
Yeah.
And I think that
the thing is, I mean, there's different levels of degrees of trance. Now, with the physical mediumship, for example, with some types of physical mediumship, they'll put the medium in a real deep trance, not necessarily in trance, you know, speak through that, but which is mental mediumship, but just the physical aspect, you get really, really, really deep. And then they utilize the energy, the chemistry of the medium to produce the phenomena. And of course, you have, you know, the let's say when they are using, you know, direct automatic speaking, you know, where they're able to actually directly speak right through you and utilize your voice box. Now, that's really a blend. It's a composite of the medium's personality as well as the personalities in spirit who are coming through. And there's varying degrees of that. So you could have literally, you know, 5% the spirit communicators. And I say communicators because usually, although there might be one who's coming through, typically that one communicator is really representing a lot of people. Just like if we're going to make a phone call and there's 30 people in the room, you might designate one person to do the talking, so to speak. Same thing with the spirit world. But with trance, people have a lot of misconceptions about it and entrancement. And the problem is you have delusion, you have fraudulence, and you have genuine stuff. And sometimes it can be really mixed together. And people aren't always able to tell the difference. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, with you, I mean, I think that's great. With you, and you being led into the trance or the altered states with your healing, did that just come quickly for you?
Healing mediumship is really the essence of all mediumship, because it's all about love and it's all about healing. And, you know, we think about vibratory rates. For example, if we're working with physical mediumship, it's a denser type of energy. It's a very heavy type of energy. And we can feel a lot of the energy in the region of our solar plexus, you know, that energy center being involved. Now healing mediumship is both a mental phase of mediumship and a physical phase of mediumship. Now, it's a mental phase of mediumship because it's dependent upon the mental and spiritual attunement of the medium with the individuals who are working with them in the spirit world. It's physical in the sense that depending upon what needs to be accomplished, so let's say you have someone who has a physical condition, the spirit physicians are able to literally dematerialize, let's say it's cancer, for example, or arthritic deposits, dematerialize those arthritic deposits,
Wow.
transport them out of the patient. Now, that's the exact same thing that takes place within the seance room when we have apportation. You know, you could have a physical object, for example. One of my friends who's a medium in Casadega spiritualist camp. So in 1972, I believe it was his father was deceased. He went to this one trumpet medium in Miami, in Florida, and the trumpet was levitating all around the room. You know, we could hear, you know, his father's voice speaking. His father told him to put his hand out. Something dropped into his hand, and it was the wedding ring that his father had been buried with.
Wow.
So that's physical mediumship. It's not like anyone went and dug up the grave. Yeah. But at the same time, if we're working with someone, you know, the spirit operations, they're able to literally, with the energies involved, affect physical matter, which is measurable. So healing mediumship is both physical as well as mental. And, you know, it's physical in the sense it's not just working on the energies, you know, which is happening, or making the person feel better emotionally. It literally, you know, physiologically can impart cures that way. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So do you think that, I mean, a lot of people ask me questions, they send me questions in to ask trance mediums. And one of the questions was, if you attend an event, it's a seance, or you're there, not a seance, or if you're there and you're receiving trance healing, sometimes I've had probably at least a handful of different people have these different answers or different experiences with it. And one would say, I felt like I was gone when something was happening. And others would say they just felt like they could feel hands going inside them.
Yes.
And then another one would say they could see people, but obviously they weren't there. They were clairvoyant. And then one person didn't actually believe anything happened. Do you think that the belief system of the patient has to be there?
Healing has absolutely nothing to do with belief. Now, obviously, if someone, let's say someone believes in it, they're open to it, they're receptive to it, that is a good thing, because we have to do, with any kind of healing, the recipient or the patient, they have to do their part. But at the same time, it's all very scientific. So what you believe doesn't really have any bearing on it. I mean, if you're being worked on by the spirit world, they'll work on you. Obviously, it's a good thing to be open.
I think it's a good thing.
But it's you know, as opposed to being really negative or closed off. But it's not something which is, you know, like within some Christian denominations, the idea of faith healing, you have to accept Jesus as your savior, you know, vicarious atonement, that type of thing. But that's just total. That's different.
Yeah, I think with some of the questions there were some religion with it as well.
Yeah.
If I recall. Can you do trance healing on yourself?
Well, if you're going into a really deep altered state, you can open yourself up for healing. And yes, you can definitely receive healing. Of course, the thing is, I mean, I'm trained as a massage therapist, for example. Now, I can't really reach parts of my back, but let's say like I was going to massage my feet. I'd much rather have someone else do it for me.
Yes.
You know, not saying I couldn't do it pretty well, but it just wouldn't be the same thing. Or even giving myself readings. I mean, let's say I was going through something. Well, my own intellect and emotions probably just get in the way of it. Not saying it couldn't be done, but I'd have to somehow trick myself just to get myself out of it. If that makes sense. So It's the same thing with any of these things. It's always nice to have someone else functioning as the instrument.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. So you could just relax and just let go.
But with healing, we're talking about, you know, the different chakras or energy centers are associated with different phases of mediumship. So, you know, physical, you're going to feel a lot of pulling in the region of the solar plexus. But with healing, it's the heart center, and it's more of a medium rate of vibration, as opposed to, let's say, the throat, which is a bit moderate, or the third eye with the clairvoyance, which is very, 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 very quick and bouncy. So, I mean, if you work as a medium, you can kind of tell the difference between the vibrations. But what we see is a lot of people who work with healing, let's say they study Reiki, you know, that's what they end up practicing. What's happening when they're working with Reiki? They're in this meditative, prayerful state, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Then automatically they go into that altered state of consciousness, and they're being influenced by the world of spirit, because the spirit doctors come in very close to them. So your whole energy field will have opened up. So there's degrees of that. And I mean, someone could be, I mean, what happens a lot when people do study healing is they study all of these different techniques. You know, you have to put your hands here, you have to do that, you have to do this. Make sure you don't bring the energy down, it'll kill the person. If you put green energy there, the person's kidneys will explode. I mean, all these weird things are taught.
Yeah.
People get totally hung up on all the technique. Now, Harry Edwards was a fantastic trance medium.
Yes.
At many, many, many physical seances back in the Depression era. Even put out 2 books on physical mediumship, which are excellent. But he was best known for his healing mediumship, and best books on spiritual healing were authored by Harry Edwards. But he said he could have his hands in his pockets, or, you know, the healer could have their hands in the pocket, and if their attunement with the source of healing was there, the healing is still going to take place. So that's what we see with absent or distant healing. You know, someone can be really removed, and the energies can be directed at them, and the spirit world can work with them. And so really the hands represent the intention of reaching and trying to help someone. You know, you might hug someone, or your mom kisses your boo-boo when you're hurt, that kind of thing. So it's the same thing with healing. The external actions of movements of your hands within themselves aren't really that important. Mm-hmm. What's really important is the connection within your own heart. So people get into a lot of technique, and because of it, they never really achieve the attunement they need to. Because I've got to do this procedure, and I've been taught this, and I've got this certification from here, and I'm going to pay another $1,000 for this course, and then I'll get my PhD on a Saturday.
Yes, you know.
Saturday, you get ordained. Actually, if you go online, you can get ordained. Ordained one of my stuffed animals as a bishop.
Oh my goodness.
Send $20 in, they'll send you this, you know, the paper in the mail.
Oh my God.
We're into all this stuff. And I really want to start something called the Steve Hermann Institute for Therapy. Do you know what the acronym for that is? No. Steve Hermann Institute for Therapy, the acronym for that.
Oh my God.
So people are into all these things. They develop their own, you know, healing processes and concoct all this stuff. So it's just, all of this stuff is really, really, really simple. You can't buy it. Now, I mean, this one time at Lilydale's like a very large spiritualist camp in upstate New York, just west of Buffalo. This man went onto the grounds, and you know what he was doing? He was selling guides. Oh my gosh, you just buy like a simple Native American, it's like $200.
Oh my gosh.
Then you want to buy an Indian chief, like, you know, someone like Big Chief Bacon Rind or Tomahawk. They always have exotic names like that. That was like $500. Then after that, I started getting pricey, because they're getting to biblical people, various prophets, ascended masters, angels. I mean, we're talking about like $1,200 for one. And people were buying it. So eventually they found out, and they had to throw this guy off the grounds. Now, why I'm saying that is people want something instant. I call it microwavable mediumship. With trance mediumship, most people who work as mediums, you know, they do go into an altered state, but it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to go deeper, to go past that. And there's no judgment at all of this. It's just where we're at. I mean, we have built-in innate defense mechanisms. And when we see that the whole idea of disassociation, you know, being able to just kind of let go of the physical body and mentally disassociate or get out of the way, not everyone can do that. I mean, people really resist that. You know, that they want to be in control. They don't feel comfortable with it. one of my teachers for mediumship, and I sat with her for quite a few years, you know, and we used to have a group and her home circle. And I remember, you know, so, you know, we'd have quite a long meditation sitting in the power, the energy had built up. You'll like this. And then she would be entranced and different spirit teachers would come through and speak philosophy. So it was pretty neat. But anyway, she was a bit crazy at times and had a lot of problems that she was working on, which was a really good thing because she was working on these things. So she has seen a therapist. During her therapy, somehow she had all these memories come up about her father and grandfather sexually abusing her when she was like 3 or 4, around that age group. Now, if you're that age, or any age for that matter, and you're dealing with something like that, having, you know, being violated that way, being abused that way, what type of trauma is taking place? And what do you do? Because you can't physically stop it, can you? So what does your mind do? It disassociates and gets out of the way. So it was interesting because, I mean, she ended up working through these things, and as a result, the way they were able to channel through her completely changed, and it's really, really, really good for her development. You know, so really, the more we work on ourselves emotionally, we're going to be much better and much more efficient channels for the spirit to work through. But anyway, in her particular case, because of this abuse, she was able to do that. But someone who hasn't gone through that trauma, it might be a very, very different story. And you can't force something just unnaturally, artificially. It's just going to happen. Yeah. You know, you can definitely do different, obviously, training exercises and work at things. And all mediumship's teamwork. So obviously the spirit helpers who assist us, they're going to do their best as they learn to work with us, but they're going to really do what's most expedient. So, you know, if someone really doesn't have a certain propensity in one direction, they probably won't put as much energy into that as perhaps another area that might really be very promising in terms of development.
So like if somebody wanted to become a trance healer, say.
Oh, it's microwavable mediumship. Just come to me on a Saturday, 2 hours, instant. $1,500.
Oh my goodness. So if anybody were wanting to, if their intention, some people that I've talked to in interviews, they say, just sit, and in the end, Spirit's going to be the one that, you know, shows you or goes with what that, you know, if you're going to be a trance healer, if you're going to be, if you're more prone to being that or this, don't.
Yeah, no, that's totally correct. I agree with that, because it's really, I mean, let's say you really, really, really want to be clairaudient, you know, and maybe that's just isn't your forte. Now, there's definitely things that you can do to strengthen that, because it is a natural ability. And even if you're a bit closed off, maybe you're just very, very, you know, you're able to get things really visual, you know, you're very clairvoyant. So there's exercises you can do, and you can kind of put energy into it. Just like, you know, we might be right-handed. And sometimes with training, when I'm working with people, I'll deliberately work on their weaknesses. Not that those weaknesses will ever be predominant in most cases, but they're there to back up the other strengths that they have. You know, like if you injure your right arm and you've really strengthened your left arm, it's just going to be pretty good. It might not be quite what the right arm was ever, but still, you'll be more prepared for it to back you up. But with mediumship, it's really one of these things where it's a blessing, and people want to be instant mediums. I mean, there's a lot of emphasis now on, oh, I've got to be evidential medium. I've got to have my own cable TV show. I've got to do all these things. And so many people will study it a short amount of time. And there's a lot of places you can go and study it, which is great because I'm really into the education part. But really, there has to be this whole foundation there. And really, you never stop being a student. You never stop growing. But there's this other whole aspect, which is really pretty cool with what you're doing, because we talk about trance or altered state. So someone might develop, oh, I can bring through your mom through, and oh my gosh, I recognize her. It's amazing. Entertain people at cocktail parties, this type of thing. But really, there's all these phases of mediumship. If you go back 75 years ago, even 50 years ago, what to speak of 100 years ago, that were being demonstrated by different mediums. A lot of them different physical, unique, interesting physical phases of mediumship. I mean, there's this one at Sunapee spiritualist camp in New Hampshire. There's one medium who resided there in the summer. He was able to be controlled by spirit, and he could hold like literally red hot items. You know, you could have like some piece of metal, hot iron. He could just hold it.
Wow.
You know, or hot coals or rocks, from the fire, these types of things. So you might ask, well, what the heck does that do? Well, it actually demonstrates the power of spirit, but you don't see that kind of stuff being done. Now, obviously, in a lot of cases, maybe part of that has to do with it's not necessarily needed that way, but part of it also has to do with where people are at with things and how much time or effort they really want to put into it. So the development of clairvoyance, clairsentience, and clairaudience, the mental mediumship for bringing through evidential communications or even guidance, that's a really good thing. And it really helps a lot of people. But there's this other whole vast, deeper level of mediumship that people can get into. So with healing, someone can study Reiki or they study some hands-on spiritual healing, which is so awesome. But you can go further with that with the entrancement, where the doctors come in and they can diagnose the person. If you go to an indigenous healing, for example, that was expected. Of course, now you'll get arrested for doing that, practicing medicine without a license. I do a lot of teaching in the Philippines. Now, the spiritualist movement is massive in the Philippines. There's thousands of centers. It's very, very, very developed. And it's not a retirement hobby there. So in the UK or the US, in a general sense, most spiritualist churches, you go there, 55. The age of 55 is young, sadly. Go to the Philippines, most of my friends there, maybe they're teenagers or in their 20s, they're mediums. There's packed the meetings there. And there's a lot of work with healing. We talk about psychic surgery. So barehanded surgery or psychic surgery is where the medium will stick their hand or fingers into the individual and remove, do the surgery that way. You can actually see it. Now, why is that being done? It's for the doubting Thomas to actually demonstrate that there is a higher power and there's something to it. That same type of work can be done actually without any type of physical contact with the medium working with a person, depending how it's done.
Stephen, I have this huge list of questions here, but I'm okay, well, he answered that one. I haven't even asked the question. You're answering this and this and that.
That's because the spirit world knows what you're going to ask.
So let me ask you this, because as far as your own development, getting into the healing and psychic surgery, I know that you offer classes on that, so we'll definitely put that up. When did you get from there? Did you, were you sitting in a circle? Were you just meditating or doing Reiki, or how was that?
Well, I've never done Reiki at all.
Okay.
Reiki's totally awesome. Any type of spiritual healing is so incredible. No, well, I'm heavily into spiritualism, so I've always sat in some types of circles, and I do a lot of teaching as well. And, I do this full time. I've got 4 kids who I've supported, all that type of stuff, travel all over the place. And I'm really into it. And I do a lot of meditation too. I do a lot of mantra meditation. I have prayer beads. I chant on the prayer beads a couple hours a day, this type of thing. So I learned meditation when I was little, sit in meditation group, this type of thing. So I've always been drawn to that type of thing. But really with any kind of mediumship, I think the big things, it's really important to have a lot of discipline. So if you have a lot of self-discipline, it's really going to help you with your mediumship. It's many people, sometimes it's just because of enthusiasm. They really want to work. So they're just open all the time. They just walk around. It's like it being a leaky faucet. But that's not really what you want to do. And of course, I know they have television shows for people like House People and Home Depot. They go up in the chainsaw section and walk up to people, or Walmart or whatever. But that's not really the way you want to work. You want quality with what you're doing. And anytime you work with the spirit world, really you want to make an appointment with them, and you want to work with the highest and the best where they're there, not just any time, any hour. They used to call them promiscuous seances, which is absolutely nothing to do with sexuality, but just we're going to frivolously open up. Let's have a seance. It's 2 a.m, this kind of thing.
Wow. Oh my goodness. When you start talking, I start remembering things for myself. And I remember a very long time ago, hearing about Reiki. And I'm researching it. I'm why do I have to, I couldn't understand it because I was totally just meditating all the time. I couldn't understand in my head, why do I have to, not that Reiki's bad, it's not. Why do I have to go through somebody to get that? or to
Well,
understand that?
the thing with mediumship is, and this is true with all the gifts of spirit, is you catch them from other, it's like catching a disease. A lot of it has to do with your chemistry. So for example, if you're meditating or sitting in, let's say, a circle or a group with others, and let's say certain people have certain gifts, the spirit chemist can take those, extract those energetically, those chemicals from those people to kind of add on to you and bring out the same types of abilities with you as well. So unlike the bubonic plague, it's not going to be a bad thing. It's a good thing. You want to levitate. Well, if you meditate or sit with someone who actually levitates, that can actually enhance your ability with that. So with Reiki, if we get into, the Eastern approaches to things, there's a lot of respect, in terms of hierarchy of teachers, respect to your teachers. And it's imparted in a spiritual sense from people. And that's true, in the yogic system too, having guru or spiritual master, that kind of thing. But with mediumship, it's very true. I mean, you've sat with different people. Now you have the gifts within yourself, but it helps to have other people to bring those things out of you. And there's just a lot of crazy stuff that's out there. My gosh,
There is. But, I really do believe that it's the intention and why you want to do something. And in service to others, really. Anything.
Yeah. That's just really important. Is it's to serve God, it's to help people. But see, the thing that's also important, like let's say you really want to work and be a channel for a light. It's really important to purify yourself as much as possible in your own lifestyle. I mean, for example, if you go back, historically, you have a lot of mediums who they just had a lot of personal problems, so they ended up being alcoholics as well. Where I remember getting involved in spiritualism a couple decades ago, and everybody smoked. Now, I think that if you go back in that period, in a general sense, older generations, a lot of people smoked anyway compared to now. But high amount of people just not really taking care of themselves. So I know in my own lifestyle, I practice the yogic lifestyle, so I'm vegetarian. I've never drunk a beer in my life, never smoked pot. But there are mediums. They'll literally, it's 2 a.m, they're passing the bong around, smoking pot. And then they want to channel and all this stuff. And, like attracts like. That's one of the laws of spirit communication. So it's really important to have a clear mind, a clear heart, really morally and ethically, to the best of your ability, really try to be growing spiritually, because it's not that the highest and the best can't work with someone who has problems and this type of thing, but really it just helps us to be a clearer instrument for them to work through, which is really important.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you with that. Let's talk about your events that you're having.
Oh.
I know we talked about, there's at least I think a couple that you're telling me. You have a 17th annual retreat happening.
Oh yeah, my 17th annual psychic mediumship retreat, for channeling spirit awareness. And that's going to be in Western Massachusetts near Amherst at this place called the Sirius Center, which is a sister community to Findhorn in Scotland, where they work with nature spirits. And but this is cool. I have it every year. It starts on Friday, October 11th through the 13th. And it's, mixed levels. So it won't be over your head if you're, experienced, or if you're new, that's okay as well. But it's really, 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 really good. We do, channeling, seances. It's amazing stuff that takes place.
And this information they can get at your website, which is Stephen Hermann.
It's Steve Hermann Medium.com.
Steve Hermann, okay.
Steve Hermann Medium.com.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the wrong one.
But I do a lot of extensive, individualized training, one-on-one mentoring. I have my own mediumship mastery training program, which, the weekend in October is part of that, but I have that other times during the year. I also have a lot of online courses at Lilydale with Fellowships of the Spirit. The last weekend in October, I'm going to be having psychic surgery intensive training on both Saturday and Sunday, as well as an additional day on Monday, if people are interested. I've got stuff going on all the time.
Yes, so you definitely, and you can find out all this information on your website, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the book. There's some great information in here. Any mediumship group that I'm involved in or a part of online, this book always comes up as one of the recommended books. So, but there's some great information here for on Trance as well. And so we talked about it. It's available on Amazon. All the links to reach Stephen, it will be under the post. So his website, definitely check it out for events, and then his book as well. I'm really glad that you wrote this book.
Oh, it took me a long time because I have kids. It took me longer than it should.
Oh yeah, you have, what did you say, 4 or 5?
I've got 4.
4.
I need to have more though. I need to breed more.
How you got this done with 4 kids, I don't know. So
yeah, my kids are 5th generation spiritualists. So
oh wow.
Yeah, they're in New Zealand.
Oh really?
Yeah. Well, not with their mom. But anyway.
So you're traveling all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm all over the place, literally.
Oh my goodness.
The UK, Europe, all over, and Philippines, Australia,
Philippines, everywhere. So
South America. I was in Argentina last year doing some work.
All over the world, and a lot of times there's a lot of events in the UK. Nobody can get over there. So what we've noticed is the biggest thing is people ask about online events. If you're having them.
Yeah, I do have classes online. Which are really good because you can go to sleep after you go to the class at night, that kind of thing. But I think, obviously in-person types of things are really good too, because you can't hold someone's hand online.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's absolutely true. And
but the big things I'm really into is the healing and the teaching and helping people and everything. And really everybody has a lot of mediumistic ability. It's just allowing yourself to bring it out. And it's really not about, oh, I've got to be the best medium in the world. I've got to outdo everyone else. And people can really get into the whole ego type of thing with it. And that's not really good at all. It's really more important is, being the best possible instrument, and really is to helping the other people and connecting them spiritually.
Yeah, build that strong foundation there, within yourself, and heal yourself as you go and keep serving. So let me ask you this, Stephen. What advice would you give somebody who's being guided towards trance?
Well, what I would suggest, first of all, like I say, all mediumship is dealing with trance, isn't it? So, the big thing is just find some type of group to sit with. Now, the problem with a lot of groups are, you just have a lot of people, they don't necessarily have a lot of training. And then the other problem is sometimes the training that's being offered isn't necessarily what it could be. So you have many groups that are operating, there's just not a lot of discipline. And it might be really good energy, really sincere people, just not a lot of So it's really good to have stuff that's very strictly run in a fun way, in a good way. Because there has to be harmony, cohesiveness, high energy. And really having a longer meditation and sitting in the power is really important for development of that. I've seen and experienced over the years, many times people have a group, they might have like a 5-minute meditation, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Which is cool for what it is. And then after everyone's, bringing stuff through this kind of thing, clairvoyantly. But really, it's good to sit in the power. Individually doing that, but also if you're going to sit with a group where there's harmony and the same people, a close group where the same people meet each week, that's definitely a lot better than having something that switches around all the time. And, you're talking about, sitting 45 minutes or an hour, just sitting there. You can have music playing, it's relaxed in the background, altered state music. But the big thing is let yourself go very, 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 very deep and get out of the way. And then they work with your chemistry, because the development takes place when they're working with your chemistry, not when you're giving out messages. Not that you're not going to learn something when you're working, because you are, but the real development takes place in the attunement when you're sitting there in the power, and they get you very, very, very deep. And sometimes people think nothing's happening, but really there's a lot that's happening. But it's not something that's just, oh, I'm going to become this trance medium. and really, with trance, we're talking about, in a lot of cases, it's bringing through philosophy. You could certainly bring through loved ones that way as well. But it's like a skyscraper. If we think that God's in the penthouse on the top floor, and you have all these different levels. And so you might have, Big Chief Bacon, right, who's on the 5th floor. You have your neurotic uncle on the 3rd floor, and then you have someone on the 2nd floor who's a bit of a jerk, and then you have got the basement.
Oh gosh.
You don't want to go there. But if you go to the top, you can work all these different levels, and really the higher levels utilize those on these other levels as intermediaries with the medium. There's mediumship between the different levels in the spirit world as well. But in terms of developing trance, really sitting in that type of group over a period of time and training yourself to go into altered states of consciousness. I think that if someone is doing, let's say, traditional martial arts, or maybe they're doing hatha yoga or other meditative type of disciplines, that's going to help them. Certainly, too, if someone is an artist or a musician, that will also help them get the analytical mind out of the way.
Well, I'm really glad that you brought up sitting in the power, because a lot of people ask me, they can't, they can't afford to take classes, or, they can't find other people. There's nobody around them that will, sit with them. And so they always ask, can I sit by myself? Can I just sit there?
Yeah, you can. I mean, the thing is, the thing with groups too, you can go to groups and you just have people, it's just like whacked out. I mean, someone will start barking like a dog and go around on all fours, and it's like someone's...
I've been to one of those.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that that goes on. I mean, there's the other thing is it's and this happens with physical mediumship too. I mean, for example, you'll have the spirit walking around. They put their hand on the head, they put the hand on the shoulders, and then you feel someone stepping on your feet, and it's all dark. And of course, you're holding hands with someone. And people, oh my God, I mean, literally, there's some mediums, they'll have you fill out an application form first. Why do you think they do that? So it's one of these types of things where you need to always be skeptical about this stuff. The spirit world will prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt. And they don't need to research you on Facebook. I mean that in a nice way. It's really important to question things. So, for example, I remember this one medium I know in Massachusetts, and he's really pretty awesome medium, but very confrontational and really can intimidate people if he wants to. So anyway, this lady ran a New Age shop. She was having a psychic group there, and I guess a couple of the people there were channeling. They were just going to, and she didn't know how to handle it. So she called the guy up, this one medium I know up, because she knew he was very experienced, and said, "Man, I have all these problems. Maybe," so he said, "I'll come on over and I'll check it out." So I guess the next week he showed up. And in the beginning of the group, he said, I understand some of you are going into trance. This is very, very interesting. And of course, he pulled out this very long, I guess it was a hairpin or whatever it is, that's quite sharp. None of them went to trance that night.
Wow.
So you can stick the needles into people if they're really in deep trance. And spirit work is no big deal. I was telling that story in Iceland. I was teaching this one mediumship workshop there once. And this one medium got all excited. He raised his hand. He goes, I was doing the seance once and I'd broken my hand. So, all of his fingers, all bandaged, all of this. And while the guide was coming through, they told the people, to grab the hand of the medium and grab one of the fingers and pull it. Pull it harder, this kind of thing. So they did that to demonstrate, that they could control the situation and the medium wouldn't be harmed, so to speak. So you always want to test spirit. Just because your senses are limited, they can deceive you. And especially if things are done in the dark, that's something that if someone is insistent upon that, that's not a good sign. Even with physical mediumship, for the development of sometimes stuff does need to be very, very, very dark. At the same time, you can have dim lighting. They used to do what's called trumpet in the light. So you'd have the trumpet there. And actually, all the times we have independent voice or spirit speaking, which you can literally hear with your physical ears. It's dim lighting. It's not like you have to have everything where you can't see what's going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of research now and people reaching out about physical mediumship with light conditions now.
Oh, you can, that's really, a lot of this, anyway, there's a lot of stuff. Just always be very, very, very skeptical about stuff, because people will just, with channeling, if you go to, you're in Southern California now, and why do you think a lot of people move to the LA area? They live in the Midwest or East, because they want to get involved in the entertainment industry. So let's say you want to be a screenwriter. You go out there's thousands of people who want to be screenwriters, and they all wait tables. Same with acting. It's probably even worse. They all wait tables. So what do? You go into channeling, and then Hay House will give you a book. You'll be on Oprah. You'll be endorsed by celebrities, and people will buy into it, and they won't question it. You can channel all sorts of weird things, intergalactic aliens, like you name it. I had this one lady at the group once channel a dandelion.
Wow.
Yes.
It is interesting. I'm telling you, going to different.
I mean this all in a nice way, but you always want to be open to things, but question things. Don't just buy into something because someone says it's going to be this way. I've got Albert Einstein coming through from spirit. No, he could come through from spirit, but if he comes through, it's going to be in a way which is going to be recognizable, not by name dropping. I remember, this one medium actually is Canadian. It's at Lilydale. And they have these large outdoor meetings at Lilydale, hundreds of people, sometimes on a weekend especially. You could have 400, 300 people easily. And he went to this one man, this is years ago, and he brought through someone from the spirit world for the person. And the person could recognize him. And, very meaningful evidential communication. Now, the person coming through was Albert Einstein. Why? Because the guy was a neighbor of his back in the 1940s in the Buffalo area when Albert Einstein was living there. But he came through with very mundane things about himself that were recognized. And I know in my own experience, there have been times I've brought through people who might have been very well known, but the people I was working with had a relationship with those people or somehow knew them within different contexts. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you just have to be really, really, really always question stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Not saying that it can't happen. You have a celebrity come through, but you don't just buy into that stuff.
Yeah, be discerning.
Or really, we talk about, channeling masters, for example. Well, if you have a kindergarten class, who's going to really be the best person to teach them basic counting? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be someone who teaches, they're at MIT teaching graduate students mathematics? Mm-hmm. Or is it going to be the person who studied, they're really very well qualified and educated in terms of teaching that age group?
Oh, yeah. No, for sure.
It's the same thing with the spirit world. So sometimes if someone gets into something, we have these high masters coming through. Well, that might have a lot more to do with their ego than it has to do with actually the way spirit works.
I could have a whole conversation and a ton of questions just about how the spirit world operates and what everybody knows or has experienced, or, it's so interesting to me. I think, Stephen, that you have tons and tons of stories.
I love stories. I have also a pretty weird sense of humor. So.
Oh, no, I love it.
I said this, I think it was last year sometime, I said, being at this one workshop I was doing, I said, I'm going to work you all to death. And, because I was just going to work them really hard. This one lady took it really seriously, I found out later. Like, she was like, oh my God, she really thought I was going to work them to death.
No, I think it's important to have a great sense of humor because it lifts the energy,
they're not lethargic in the world of spirit. They're actually really, they're pretty cool.
Oh my God. Well, I'm so grateful to you. Don't be surprised if I think of, my interviews are really based on how good my questions are. But what I love the most is when you're answering questions that are on my list and you're just telling stories about everything.
Yeah, well, the thing is when I teach, I'm a teaching medium, and that's a type of mediumship. And the way it works is the spirit teachers will influence the teaching medium. So you can have, they're aware of what blocks people have, how to focus a group or individually help people get past certain blocks and enhance the capabilities that they have. So if I'm doing a talk or if I'm teaching, usually people's questions are answered without them having to ask quite specifically. Not like I'm directly trying to tune in, but they influence me.
Oh, no, I totally get it. And I actually love that because I get to sit here and listen and really, and then sometimes like, oh my God, I got to ask a question, But no, I'm so grateful to you for helping me do this and share.
Oh yeah, I think what you're doing is awesome. Anything I can do to help you, I'm here. I should kidnap you and take you to one of my programs.
No, I'm so grateful. But I want to bring it up again. So it's Steve Hermann,
SteveHermann.com.
Medium.com. 2 N's on the Hermann.
Steve Hermann.
Okay, you'll find all the details under the post.
And my book too, Mediumship Mastery.
Mediumship Mastery. The Mechanics of Receiving Spirit.
The Ultimate Guide.
The Ultimate Guide.
It's not about me. That's the other thing about my book. It's not about me. I didn't want one of these books. All these books, Great the Medium is all this. I hate those books. I guess they're good if someone's just starting out. But really, it's about development, and that's what's really important. So 50 years from now, hopefully people will still read that book, or 100 years from now.
No, I mean, I'm totally recommending it, you guys, because the way he put things together and the amount of exercises in it, it's beautifully written and a wealth of knowledge, and really going to help you with your mediumship. So definitely check it out. The link will be underneath. Stephen is in our group, so if there's any questions that you have, we'll also post information. Stephen will put anything that's in his events. He can post in on our event page.
Oh yeah, I'll do that, because I definitely, if anyone's interested in coming to any of my programs, I've got email lists too, but my annual retreat, Spirit Awareness Channeling Weekend, that's going to be really, really, really good if you're into trance or any of that stuff.
Yes, for sure. And then again, I think you have the psychic surgery.
Yeah, well, my annual retreat in Massachusetts, that's going to be Columbus Day weekend, October 11th to the 13th. And then 2 weeks from then in Lilydale, the last weekend of October, that's going to be more psychic surgery and beyond, working with that. And then after that, I'm in Castaiga, Florida, Castaiga Spiritualist Camp, first weekend in November, doing more programs there. So I go from Castaiga, New York, which is where Lilydale is, right down to Castaiga, Florida.
Do you ever do anything in Southern California?
Oh yeah, I do a lot of stuff. I'm in Anaheim at Learning Light at Harmony Grove Spiritualist. Before they had the fire 5 years ago, I would go there for a week, and all over the place,
Okay, perfect. So definitely like Stephen's page, because you'll see events there as well.
I travel, so if you want to set something up, I mean, I would go do it if it was coordinated the right way.
Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. Again, don't leave anywhere, Stephen. But thank you guys very much. Thank you, Stephen, for joining me today and for bringing all this great information to us.
Thank you so much for having me, and God bless you. And anyone, I'm here, and I'm happy to help you and work with you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. This is Sacred Dance with Trance. We'll see you next time.